Hello everyone out there, this is Alexander F. Onilere from Caliban Crypto. Continuing my macro market deep dive, light dive, I'm going to talk about BRICS. Now, what is BRICS? BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and around 2010, South Africa. It was coined by someone called Jim O'Neill who worked for Goldman Sachs. They met recently to talk and chat and have a meeting about how they can move away from the dollar-centric financial system that we've all been living in for the past, since the Second World War. Talking about Brazil, I'm actually doing this from Sao Paulo in Brazil, my friend's flat, beautiful flat, you see. I'm going to be reading a lot, so I'm going to look down, never mind about that. The primary goal of BRICS is said to promote economic growth, development, cooperation amongst its members, to try and reform the international financial and political system, better reflect the interests of these emerging markets. That was back in 2006. However, since institutions left Russia has now been pushing forward with the BRICS. More countries involved in moving away from the dollar as the system of payment, most especially Switch. Why should we care? Well, in the last few months or few weeks, gold has reached an all-time high. It's now $2,750 per troy ounce, whatever that means. Russia is supposed to be fueled by war, inflation, and fiscal profligacy around the world. And gold now makes up 11% of central bank reserves. And that's up from 6% in 2008. As you know, gold was decoupled by Nixon in the 70s from decoupled gold from the dollar in the 70s. And now, let me read this straight from this place. For some central banks, the interest in gold reflects anxiety about the state of the world. Others have narrow concern that their reliance on the dollar, always uncomfortable and annoying, has become dangerous. Buying has been enthusiastic in China, India, and Turkey, and it began to ratchet up in the spring of 2022 after Russia invaded Ukraine, and America and its allies sought to cripple Russia financially using sanctions. This included freezing some $280 billion in state assets held overseas and kicking Russian banks off the SWIFT and interbank messaging service, crucial for making cross-border payments. Visa card, MasterCard, American firms which process debit and credit card transactions.
These are new technologies. Anything can happen with dollar. These instruments will continue developing because costs, and to make these instruments more reliable. This is inevitable. And dollar has nothing to do with it.
Now, you can see why it's in Russia's interest to try and move away from the dollar and find alternatives. And there are other countries also involved, with Turkey, Afghanistan, Iran. From what I gathered, about 36 other countries signed up to this. The thing was first put forward in South Africa last year when they had their summit. So let me carry on with what The Economist has to say. Some central banks are buying physical bars of gold and attempt to ship them to vaults at home. This suggests that they want to protect themselves from economic warfare. Countries worried about America's power are also trying to trade in their own currencies. According to the Federal Reserve, the share of Chinese goods invoiced in yuan has shot up to the quarter from a tenth in 2020. Officials in Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa met at the summit in Kazan on the Volga. And they started working on a new set of cross-border payment rails that will circumvent the dollar-based correspondent bank system. This is what TLDR News Global had to say about it.
A recurring theme at BRICS summits is their mutual irritation about the dominance of the US dollar, or more specifically, the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. What this means is that the dollar is the primary currency held by central banks and financial institutions around the world. It means there's more demand for dollar-denominated assets, especially US debt. It means most international trade, especially commodity trade, is denominated in dollars.
A few years ago, the idea that central banks might be able to issue tokens and use to settle cross-border transactions quickly and cheaply would have been a pipe dream. Until, of course, Bitcoin came along. Or crypto. The Bank for International Settlements, BIS, the central banks for all central banks, developing such a system. It's been using it for live transactions, such as beta type trial. BIS payment mechanism was not designed for the BRICS. I'm sure they're saying that because they don't want America to step in and start, shooting everybody down. So some have suggested that central bank digital currency, CBDC projects such as mBridge, could be another channel through which the BRICS group could de-dollarize the global cross-border payment system. mBridge, or Multiple CBDC Bridge, is a multiple CBDC platform developed to support real-time peer-to-peer cross-border payments and foreign exchange. But the experts and the economists think that in the short term is overestimated. But in long term, they might be underestimated. The BIS are saying that they have nothing to do with the BRICS de-dollarization, but somehow no one's going to stop them copying what they've experimented on. The Bank for International Settlement carries out research to shed light on the issues of core interest to the central bank community. I'm sort of thinking that no one's going to trust one government or the other to be in charge and to be central to these CBDBs. So I postulate that they might have a CBDB pegged to gold. Your individual country's currency will be pegged to gold, and whatever that announced of gold is in that country is what they'll be able to buy in CBDB format. And this means they probably have to use Circle's USDC or speak to Theta or Ripple's XRP or PayPal's PYUSD. I believe they're going to have to use one of the more established decentralized companies in order to make it trustworthy. Otherwise, one country can control it like Russia, then we're going to have a problem, because at any time they can do what the Americans are doing and carry sanctions on every goddamn person they don't like. So once this gets out in the crypto community that this is the thing that's going to happen, I believe this will impact the bull run sometime next year. So that's why I think it's, for us in the crypto market, it's really important for us to keep abreast of what's happening with the BRICS dollarization, because somehow, somewhere, they'll have to use something that doesn't belong to one country. I mean, imagine China being in charge of it. They can cut anybody off anytime. I mean, they cut billionaires off anytime they want. The guy from Alibaba. Russia doesn't mind pushing people off buildings anytime. So if they're saying you got 36 countries involved now, surely no one's going to have one country being controlled. This is probably where Bitcoin comes in. I mean, let's have a think about it. Well, so until next time, this is Alexander F. Onileri signing off from São Paulo in Brazil. Obrigado.